Hey, y'all. So we are going to finish up strong with a relatively quick lesson here on the evolution of working class politics. So what we've seen is pretty much the application of universal male suffrage in all of the major countries that we looked at for the most part, with England, Great Britain, France, as well as Germany, and we're seeing that this is really going to be transformative. It really drove the responsive state. So now, before we get started with the evolution here, let's just look here. Why did Marx's prediction of a proletariat revolution fail to come to fruition? Well, first of all, let's look at these. First, mass consumerism. With the concept of the second industrial revolution, with this mass production of consumer goods, with the drastic increase in real wages, the workers became satisfied. That concept of wage slavery didn't seem to be true any longer. Marxists at the time could say it still was. It was masking, but again, the average worker felt fulfilled. Mass society, with the idea of the social mobility, we began to see this idea of having a variety of different classes, societies being more democratically driven. We have the weekend created, beach trips created. Everyone can participate. They can ride the Ferris wheel. They can do these other elements. Mass society, people felt part no matter what social class they came from. Mass politics, the idea in which politicians convey to the lower classes that they represent their interest, and we saw the evolution of the emergence of that welfare state in Germany, as well as we saw within the ideas of England in 1911. Workers felt heard. Legalization of unionism. So unions become legalized. They're now okay. By the time we get to 1900, for the most part, unions were legalized, and they were working with the government. Unions were no longer radical. The unions of Robert Owen, who attempted to argue class conflict, they dissipated, and unions even gained the right to collectively bargain. Collectively bargaining means the unions have the one voice for the power of thousands, and they were able to have equal negotiations with leverage with the factory owners, the bourgeois, and the unions gained the right to strike. So now all of a sudden, unionism is now going to be utilized by government to satisfy the working class, or at least appease, which then does what? Moderates them. Unionism is no longer radical. And lastly, the age of nation states, or age of nationalism. This late 19th century, people believed they were part of something greater. No longer were they considering themselves workers of the world, proletariat of the world. They were people of France, Germany, England. They had their own God given national identities. And in the end, for all of these reasons, the proletariat revolution didn't occur because that binary bourgeois super oppressing the proletariat did not come to fruition. And what we see here with the attempts to unite the left, we already talked about the First International. The First International was in hope to bring in so that the left would define themselves by their similarities rather than differences. Historically, this is where Karl Marx was a leader. But when we get to the 1890s, we get this Second International. The Second International is a reemergence of the left trying to define themselves. At their meetings, we're going to find out that they only had limited success. The only thing I think of in the Second International that was really even important was the invention of May Day. May Day is May 1st, and it became the international holiday for a workers' strike. And the Second International wanted the labor throughout the world to prove that they are valuable, to have a general strike on May Day, so that the bourgeois could hear the power of their voice. But in the end, they're going to schism. The left is not going to be able to define themselves by their similarity. Why? Well, first of all, it's the Marxist schism. So not only are we going to talk about different ideologies, the Marxist schism emerged. Orthodox Marxist, they believed in Karl Marx had the truth. Orthodox Marxism said we must have a proletariat revolution. We must resist participating in mass politics. That's Orthodox Marxism. They believed in the final stage of history that we've already defined, and Orthodox means pure. Well, this is when the revisionists come in. The revisionism is the belief that we can get to a Marxist, a utopian world through the ballot box, through election. We can get there. And here we see the famous 1899 publication by Edward Bernstein's Evolutionary Socialism. And in this, he really defines the new view. Here we see a classic statement of democratic socialism. Edward Bernstein observed the success of the German SPDs. They had gained the imagination of the working class and proved to be the most powerful political party in Germany. Edward Bernstein believed only through the election box could the workers truly transform society. So revisionism is revising Marxism, and Edward Bernstein rejected the idea of a class worldview, a class revolution, and believed that the SPDs and other elected parties can transform the world. So if Marxism itself is schismed, what's going to happen to the entirety of the left? Well, of course, the left is going to absolutely be divided. We have Michael Bakunin in anarchism. Michael Bakunin was part of the First International. He hated Karl Marx. He believed Karl Marx was weak. He made fun of Karl Marx for fleeing the revolutions in 1848. But Michael Bakunin believed only through an anarchist revolution could they achieve liberty. Jean Jaurès is this great French socialist who rejected class conflict, rejected the Marxist principle, and believed the French revolutionary model was the only European model for progress. He looked at 1789, 1792, 1830, 1848, and then again in 1871. He believed that revolutionary activity in France transformed. And lastly, we're going to see Lenin and Leninism. By the time we get to the 1890s, Vladimir or V.I. Lenin, he believed that he was truly an Orthodox Marxist, rejecting revisionism, rejecting anarchism. And Lenin believed that the only way to achieve a true Marxist society is through a proletariat peasant joint revolution in France. Lenin believed that he believed Russia could be the leading voice in the revolutionary element. So now all of a sudden we have Michael Bakunin, Jean Jaurès, Lenin. The left is clearly schismed. There is no one way. And with that said, I hope that makes sense to you as mass politics transform the left into a division. And last but not least, you begin to see why the new right is so important. The new right of military, monarchist, and ministers, the religion, they believe they need to define themselves by their similarity so that they can defeat this schismed left. With that said, have a great day.